In the heart of the kingdom of Eldoria, a shadow had fallen. A creeping blight was draining the life from the land, and the once vibrant fields turned to dust. The court mages spoke of an ancient prophecy. Only the Sunstone, hidden atop the treacherous Mount Cinder, could restore the kingdom's vitality. But Mount Cinder was a place of legend, a volcanic peak that spat fire and venom, a place from which no one had ever returned. Yet, one knight, young and untested but with a fire in his heart, stepped forward. His name was Kaelen. While others saw a suicide mission, Kaelen saw the only path to salvation for the home he loved. His quest was not just for a magical artifact. It was a desperate bid to save his people. Kaelen knew courage alone wouldn't be enough. The legends of Mount Cinder were terrifying. The slopes were said to be razor-sharp obsidian, the air thick with toxic fumes, and fiery beasts were rumored to guard its summit. So, for months, Kaelen trained with a fervor that bordered on obsession. Before the sun rose, he would be in the training yard, his sword a blur of silver, his movements precise and powerful. He pushed his body to its absolute limits, running miles in full armor, scaling the castle's highest walls until his fingers were raw and bleeding. He studied ancient maps and scrolls, learning every known detail about the mountain's unforgiving terrain. His mentor, the grizzled old knight Sir Gideon, watched with a mix of pride and worry. He taught Kaelen not just how to fight, but how to endure, how to read the wind, and how to find water where there seemed to be none. Kaelen absorbed every lesson, his resolve hardening like the steel of his blade. He was preparing for a battle against a mountain, and he would not fail. The day of his departure was somber. The king gave him his blessing, the queen a silken banner, and the people watched with hope and fear in their eyes. As Kaelen began his ascent of Mount Cinder, the reality of his task hit him with the force of a physical blow. The air grew thin and acrid, burning his lungs with every breath. The ground was a treacherous landscape of shifting scree and jagged volcanic rock that tore at his boots and armor. Days blurred into a grueling cycle of climbing, slipping, and climbing again. He faced rock slides that nearly swept him into oblivion and navigated chasms that seemed to drop into the very heart of the world. The physical toll was immense, but the mental strain was worse. Loneliness became his constant companion, a heavy cloak that settled over his spirit. Doubt, a venomous whisper in the back of his mind, began to grow louder. Was he foolish? Was this quest impossible? The summit seemed no closer than when he had started, a cruel, distant fang against a smoke-filled sky. Weeks into his journey, Kaelen reached his breaking point. Exhausted, injured, and demoralized, he collapsed in a shallow cave, the biting wind howling outside. His provisions were nearly gone. His body ached with 1,000 cuts and bruises, and his spirit was shattered. He stared at the worn hilt of his sword, the symbol of a knighthood he now felt he had disgraced. The faces of his people flashed in his mind. Their hopeful eyes now seemed to mock him. He had failed them. Despair washed over him, cold and complete. He was just a boy playing a hero's game, and the mountain had won. He closed his eyes, ready to surrender, to let the cold and the darkness claim him. Mount Cinder was not just a mountain. It was a monument to his own inadequacy. In that moment of utter defeat, Kaelen believed his journey was over. As he lay there, teetering on the edge of giving up, a memory surfaced. It was Sir Gideon's voice, calm and steady from their last training session. A knight's greatest weapon is not his sword, but his will. When your body breaks, your will must hold. When your path is lost, your purpose must guide you. The words echoed in the desolate cave, cutting through the fog of his despair. His purpose. It wasn't about glory or being a hero. It was about the farmer whose fields were dying, the baker whose children were hungry, the kingdom that had placed its last hope in him. He hadn't failed yet. He had stumbled, he had fallen, but he was still breathing. He looked back at the path he had taken, not with regret, but with a new perspective. He saw his mistakes, the reckless energy he'd wasted on direct assaults against rock faces, the times his pride had made him ignore the easier, safer routes. He realized the mountain wasn't an enemy to be conquered by force. It was a puzzle to be solved with patience and wisdom. A profound shift occurred within him. His desperation transformed into determination, his fear into focus. He wasn't the same boy who started the climb. He was a survivor. With renewed purpose, Kaelen rose. He was no longer fighting the mountain. He was working with it. He learned to read its moods, to use its natural contours to his advantage. He found paths he'd previously overlooked, hidden ledges and sheltered passages that offered a safer route upward. His climb became a careful dance, a testament to his newfound respect for the colossal force of nature he was traversing. The journey was still brutal, but it was no longer hopeless. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he hauled himself over the final ridge. There, in the heart of the smoldering caldera, was the Sunstone. It pulsed with a warm, golden light, a miniature sun that pushed back the oppressive gloom of the summit. It was more beautiful and more powerful than any legend had described. Holding it in his hands, Kaelen felt not the thrill of victory, but a deep, quiet sense of peace. He had done it. The descent was a blur. Fueled by the stone's energy and his own indomitable spirit, Kaelen moved with a speed and confidence he hadn't known he possessed. When he finally emerged from the mountain's shadow and walked back toward Eldoria, the people at first didn't recognize him. He was leaner, scarred, and his eyes held the wisdom of someone who had stared into the abyss and walked away. But when he raised the glowing sunstone high, a roar of pure joy erupted from the crowd. As the stone's light spread across the kingdom, a miracle unfolded. The blighted land began to heal, green shoots pushed through the cracked earth, and the sky cleared. Kaelen was hailed as the kingdom's greatest hero. But as he stood before the cheering crowds, he knew the truth. The real prize wasn't the Sunstone. The real victory was won in that cold, dark cave on the mountainside. He had set out to conquer a mountain, but in the end, he had conquered himself. His strength wasn't in his sword arm, but in his unwavering perseverance and the spirit that refused to be broken. Kaelen, the boy knight, had returned as a true king of his own will. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story of courage and perseverance, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of epic heroes and incredible journeys. Let us know in the comments what part of Kaelen's story inspired you the most. Until next time, stay strong and keep climbing your own mountains.